After 4 long years, yes, finally, Overlord is back. And yes, the return of countless people saying, Bone Daddy. I don't like that. I don't like that Bone Daddy thing. You can all know that if you are an anti-Bone Daddy saying person, you will not hear me say Bone Daddy. But yes, Overlord Season 4 is here, and it's finally the return of Bone Daddy. Son of a... No, jokes aside. I'm not going to say that. I hate it. But anyways, yes, fantastic return of Overlord. Really did like this first episode. It kind of took its time to get us resettled into the world of Overlord. Nothing was really kind of rushed through, which I really do appreciate. Yes, not an action-packed episode, nothing that has big reveals, but it did really well in progressing the story while at the same time kind of reintroducing us to the characters, and I really did appreciate that. Obviously, we have Ainz is now kind of established in this new sorcerer kingdom that he's established. He's kind of trying to divvy out control to different people for these different kingdoms. It's kind of funny at some point he establishes, he's got all this paperwork to go through, and he's like, I have no clue what I'm looking at. He's like, a salary man should not be running a kingdom, which is kind of one of those troubling aspects that you have him kind of running headstrong into this whole idea of creating this sorcerer kingdom, but at the same time, he doesn't really know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to run a kingdom, so he's kind of hoping that his subordinates will figure it out. These different NPCs or servants will figure out things, so he's divvying out to each person, Demiurge mostly, to figure out like laws and stuff like that. But it's still interesting that he still is willing to admit, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't really know what I'm doing. But the idea is that it seems like he's controlling himself. He's controlling with power and, like I said, divvying out to each of these people that he hopes will figure things out to keep a peaceful kingdom. Because as he kind of states at the very end, his main focus right now is creating a utopia. And this utopia kind of needs control, it needs power, and additionally, he can kind of figure the rest of the stuff out. What was really interesting in this episode that I really wasn't expecting, and it really does seem like this almost feels like it's the path it's going to be taking next, is that he went specifically to the Adventurer Guild and says, hey, he says, I know who you are, and I want to kind of, bring this Adventure Guild under my wing. And the reason he wants to do that is because he wants to actually repurpose the Adventure Guild, because the Adventure Guild has no jobs. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to protect anymore. There's no crimes happening because all these things are walking down the streets. Nobody's doing anything inappropriate. So the adventures don't really have anything to do. So what he wants to do is repurpose the Adventure Guild to go out and adventure. Like, don't be, doing odd jobs, getting cats out of trees, capturing a guy that stole a purse. No, go out into the world and explore it and find new things. And the reason why he wants to put them under his control is because they're going to be going to different kingdoms. And yes, those other kingdoms could be somehow violent. And which is kind of interesting because I almost kind of assumed that he was going to put it in a way that was like, you're going to do your own thing, but I'm going to secretly behind the scenes support you financially, whatever. That way you can still be kind of, neutral to all the other kingdoms, because that's what they do. They stay neutral. These adventure guilds stay neutral so that they can kind of work within all these kingdoms. And it was kind of funny at some point. He's like, no, we stay neutral. We can't go under your wing. And he's like, well, you support all these different races, right? Well, what about in this kingdom where they don't like those races? You overlook that, right? You don't protect them, right? Well, that's a little difficult. Like, he really does manage to catch him on something. Like, you do realize you're acting like you're neutral, but you're not always neutral. When you're over here, you're not neutral. So you're already abiding by that kingdom's rules, aren't you? So why wouldn't you abide by my rules? So it was interesting. Like, he was actually going to give up the guild to him, but pulled all the adventurers out. So giving him basically an empty chamber. So it was really cool how he managed to kind of manipulate him to kind of redirect what they're going to be doing going forward. And like I said, I'm assuming that's the direction they're taking it next. I mean, obviously there's a lot of working parts going on right now. That's kind of been the nice thing about Overlord in general, is that this writer knows how to put out so many different tendrils. Sometimes it feels like you get lost. Like, sometimes I have to remind myself who's doing what. But at the same time, it's never like there's a focus. Like, there's never a point which this is all we're doing. Well, like the war and stuff is a different case. Like the Plains War and everything was a different case. But it always feels like it can go any direction. But right now it feels like it's going in the direction of he wants to go out and explore the world. But at the same time, build the Sorcerer Kingdom. Because as he establishes at the very end, yeah, he wants to create a utopia. He wants this place. He wants to basically take over everything. And then once he finds or he sees his friends again, his comrades, they can see what he created. Like, this is the thing that he's trying to establish. But at the same time, never forget that his subordinates, these NPCs, these NPCs of their guild that they created, he's going to protect every single one of them. That's his focus. Like, I'm going to protect you guys. These are the most important thing to me. But at the same time, I need to make sure that this kingdom I build, everybody's happy, no matter what race, and I'm going to take over everything and create this big utopia. And again, I worry because he doesn't know really what he's doing. Again, from his mindset, it really does feel like as long as I go in there with as much power as possible, I can take over everything. But I'm hoping that my subordinates can figure things out after that. I did get a kick out of the fact that when he was going through all these suggestions from Nazarick, everybody's suggestions for what they should do in the kingdom. One was suggesting, I think it was Albedo, I believe it was Yuri. Yuri was suggesting this idea of creating like this place to educate young ones, and then they could become talented individuals that can work for their benefit. And immediately, well, everything Albedo's like, that's preposterous. This is terrible. He's like, yeah, we really shouldn't do that, but we're going to do it, kind of thing. And then he goes like, but I'm going to make sure I slip in my own suggestions, which was apparently he wants everybody to be uniform. Like, Ainz has this desire to have all of his people wearing one restricted uniform, and yeah, Albedo wasn't for that. That would be weird. That would definitely take a lot of the flavor out of all the different styles of characters. Obviously, like, Shalltear has her own fantastic style. Albedo has her own fantastic style. But yeah, Albedo really shot that one down. So when later on, after the two come in and they sit down on his lap, and she gets super jealous and wants to sit on his lap too, she brings up something again. I was like, is she gonna bring up the outfits again? Because I think they'll be for it. They'll be all for it. But no, they end up going into, you know, the fact they have these supply issues, but then additionally getting a suggestion from them being, yes, all females should dress like boys and all boys should dress like females. It's like, okay, sure, that one's gonna work out. I would have got a kick if it was like, yeah, we end up passing that, and the next scene it shows Albedo and she's wearing like a pants and suit or something like that. And then Ainz is wearing a dress. No, we didn't do that. No, do that. Don't do that. There was one last scene that we had, and that was really with Pandora. Pandora Actor. Now, Pandora Actor's always been a character that, yes, when he's on scene, he really does take control of the scene, and that's really around his Seiyu. His Seiyu is phenomenal at the overly eccentric character. But honestly, Pandora Actor is a very weird case because I feel like that scene was... I don't know, my mind started running. Like, I don't know really exactly where they could take this, but at the same time, I immediately start to really jump to conclusions. Obviously, the thing that we've noticed when this series first started was, obviously, Ainz gets trapped inside of this world, and he immediately realizes that all the servants, the NPCs that his guild created, are all acting differently. They're acting more human. But they've always still had their initial programming. And so, obviously, Ainz, in trying to get Pandora to not act the way he created him, like, he's like, yeah, the outfit you're wearing, your demeanor, this kind of German kind of acting that he's doing, you don't have to do that. What I originally created you to be, don't be that. Be your own person. Grow up and be your own thing. You don't have to be what I created you to be. And that scares me. That scares me because obviously, again, at the very start, you're establishing this idea that they're all acting more human. So when he says, be your own thing, and yes, kind of bringing on himself as this father figure, and now he's calling him father all the time, it creates this idea that now Pandora technically could be his own thing. And will him now saying that reprogram Pandora to be his own thing and eventually betray Momonga? Like, my mind's already running that direction. Like, will he eventually betray Momonga? Because the other thing they're kind of establishing, obviously, is that Pandora has been acting as Momonga's or Ainz's other self. And if he is acting as his other self, he might eventually bring in the desires of the people to overthrow Ainz. And that would be interesting. Like, he mimics his adventurer self and then overthrows Ainz, the evil overlord that is now taking over the kingdoms. I don't know. I don't think it would go that direction, but it could. It could go down that direction. I mean, it's just like the idea of Shalltear being mind control or something like that. That way of putting in some sort of way that somebody could turn on Ainz and ultimately lead to some conflict in the future. But at any rate, fun episode overall. Really did enjoy it. Like I said, really solid episode, solid pacing. Really took its time to get us reacquainted with what's going on. Already establishing some possible future routes that it could take, including, getting supplies, taking over the land, establishing this utopia, creating laws of the lands, and yes, obviously in the future, possibly other groups not liking him having the control that he has. So anyways, looking forward to more. Really excited for this series. Cannot wait for more. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment, let me know what you thought of the episode. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video if you can. Support us on Patreon or through our tips link in the description below. We definitely appreciate everybody that supports us. We also have a super thanks button down there. And y'all take care.